couldn't even tell you we're about to go live, but here we are. We're talking about the flu. Dr. Curtis Turner is here with USA Health, pediatrician. We obviously have a lot of questions about the flu. So first, I'm going to start out and tell you how this is going to work. We've done this before. This is your first time here, though, right?
It is.
All right, so welcome in.
Thank you.
Everyone, welcome Dr. Turner in. So what we do is we'll start this on Facebook, and we'll start the discussion here. Then we're going to be live on News 5 at 5, so you can join us there, and then we'll continue a more in-depth discussion here on Facebook. So during this time, we invite you to ask any questions you have about the flu. If you aren't feeling well, and maybe you have some questions about that, maybe Dr. Turner can answer that. Okay, right now I'm going to get a mic check, so give me just 1 minute. Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Check. Yeah, will this be okay? Okay, thank you. All right, so a little behind the scenes. We're getting the mic checks ready. And again, we're talking about the flu, and one of the things is there have been reports saying that this season's flu shot doesn't match what's circulating. So the first question we're going to ask this too on News 5, what exactly does that mean?
So they have to do predictions with WHO and the CDC, looking at what type of strains are circulating a year prior to vaccinating here in North America. So what their prediction may not be exactly accurate. Much like college football, the number one ranked in September may not be the one who eventually wins in the playoffs in January. So they're really trying to predict way ahead. So the virus has a shell, if you will, and if it was Legos, it could be crimson red, it could be red and yellow, it could be orange, it could be purple and gold. But you've got to predict that 6 months later, a year later. So they do the best that they can. A good year, they're right 60% of the time. A bad year, they get it right about 19%. So they really don't close out that information and analyze it until the flu season's over. So we really don't know if it's a great match or not this year. But in the big picture, if we can cut the number of people with flu and all the complications from it in half, it's worth doing.
Okay. All right. So we're about to go live. So we're going to come back to Facebook Live in just a moment. But you can stay with us. And we're going to start with that same question just so everyone who's watching on TV gets that first same answer that you all just got. So stay with us. Yeah, thanks, Devin. And I do have Dr. Turner here with me. And what we've been talking about off camera is there are reports saying that what's circulating this year doesn't match the strain of the vaccine. So what exactly does that mean for all of us?
Okay. So the flu virus has different strains, and they try to predict what strain's going to be dominant. And they make the vaccine 6 months to a year before the vaccine is released. So it's the same thing as with college football, that the AP poll in September may rank Alabama number one, and then OSU, they ranked them higher later, and then people aren't paying attention to other teams. But you've got to predict who's going to be the national champ at the end of the season.
Now, still, though, the flu shot is recommended, even though it may not be, I guess, would you say, as good as it should be, it would still protect everyone.
Right. So really good years, you might have a protection of 60%, and the poor years, it's 20%. But when you look at 330 million people in the country, and if you can cut the amount of flu down in half or by 20% even, it helps a lot of hospitalizations and a lot of illnesses.
Okay, so we do have a lot more questions about this, and we urge you to follow us on WKRG's Facebook page. Going to have Dr. Turner with us for a little bit longer, and we're also going to answer your questions. So if you would like to ask any questions about the flu, you feel like you're getting sick, or you just have any questions in general about this flu season, again, WKRG, go to our Facebook page, and we are going to continue this discussion. For now, back to you. All right, thank you. Okay, so we're still on Facebook. Thank you all for staying with us. And if you're just joining us, welcome in. I'm going to turn this off so I'm not hearing it in my ear. So this is Dr. Curtis Turner. He is a pediatrician at USA Health, and we're talking about the flu. So any questions you have, now is the time to write those in and ask. And so let's go ahead and go to a couple of questions Let's see. Oh no. Reagan says her baby has had the flu twice this year and had the vaccine. So that's kind of what we're talking about, Reagan, is this year the vaccine didn't quite match what's been going around. And you described this as maybe predicting, like predicting college games, predicting the weather.
That's absolutely right. And even if you get my daughter also had both types of flu a few years ago, and she'd been vaccinated well.
Oh, no.
So it does happen that you try to protect, but not everybody responds. Maybe the vaccine's not early enough to have a response, and so it does happen. But we're looking at instead of individual people, we're looking at populations and trying to protect as many people in the population as possible. So it's never been 100%. Good years it protects 60%. Some years it's 20%.
And so I can't imagine. I have a baby as well, Reagan, and I can't imagine him having the flu. This is particularly getting the flu is particularly harder on those with compromised immune systems, also children.
Yeah, flu really ravages the really young, critically ill little babies and the elderly. Their immune system's not good on either end of the spectrum. But even people in the middle of age can get the flu and be sick as well and hospitalized. It's happened. So anything that we can prevent, we try.
My husband had influenza A this year, and on Christmas he was in the emergency room all day and then trying to get medication that was prescribed for him. And one of the things that was interesting to me is he said the emergency room was full of people with the flu. Are you seeing more patients this year than you have maybe in previous years?
We've seen worse. There's quite a bit, and it may be leveling off a little bit. We looked at the data 2 years ago, and it peaked in January and started to drop off rapidly in February. So we're in the middle of winter. We may be in the middle. Maybe we're past that.
Okay, so about when should we expect it to be out of here? Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Typically, it's March,
Okay.
Mid-March. Usually, we quit vaccinating around March.
So at this point, there is still time to get the vaccine.
Yeah, and if someone has flu B, which is common this year, you could still get flu A, and so we would still recommend it because it really protects against 2 types of A and 2 types of B. And so you could catch any of those. And so because you've had 1 or 2 of them, it doesn't mean that you can't have another bout of the flu.
What is the difference? Because after my husband got it so bad, I heard different things. Like A is worse. Then other people said, oh, no, B is worse. What's the difference? Which one is worse? Can you say one is worse than the other?
Most people will tell you that A is a little bit worse and that B is not quite as bad. But you can't tell that to somebody who's got B.
Right, because they're feeling equally as horrible.
They have similar symptoms, fevers and aches and pains and runny nose, cough. Sometimes people have, additional symptoms.
But A, so how do I, without getting a test, is there any way to know I have A or I have B?
No, and a lot of people think that they've got the flu when they don't, because there's a lot of other viruses going around this time of year too, RSV, human metapneumovirus, and coronavirus and adenovirus are always around too. So they have a lot of the similar symptoms with runny nose and cough, but the flu tends to have more problems with lethargy and fever, usually, compared to the other ones. The other ones just make you miserable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And sometimes I feel like, and I'm using my husband as an example, don't want to go. You don't feel good, but you don't want to go and see a doctor. He found out Christmas he had to go. He had no other choice because he said, oh, my gosh, Cherish, I can barely move. When is the point when you need to see the doctor, when you still have time to get treated and get that Tamiflu or something else in your system and maybe knock it out, hopefully faster?
Yeah, the antivirals are recommended to start within 48 hours. After that, it doesn't seem to make much difference. The antivirals will shorten the illness by about a day. Typically, the illness is 5 days, so you're talking about being better a day early.
Okay. Let's look at some other questions. All right. Robin says hello. So.
Hello.
Frances Ann Martin wants to know, what can I do for a headache from the flu? She says she has strain A.
Yeah, most people are going to recommend ibuprofen or even naproxen or Tylenol. The one thing that we don't like to see is anybody take any aspirin products. There's Reye syndrome that can happen that causes brain swelling, which is serious. So it's usually kids, and that's why Tylenol is taking over the market for children, because a few decades ago aspirin was given routinely, and it causes Reye syndrome with the flu.
That is scary. What about at what part, we're talking about kids too, at what age should they start getting that flu vaccine?
Yeah, so we recommend it at 6 months of age. And the first year that they get it once, and then they have to repeat it in a month because their immune system's not great. And the reason it's not less than 6 months is they really don't respond to get any protection from it. Their immune system didn't.
Now, can children be treated with Tamiflu and things like that?
Yes, and again, that's usually 6 months and up. There are cases where if kid's really sick in the ICU, they'll treat younger than that. But yeah, kids can get the Tamiflu.
What if children or adults don't go see a doctor and realize, hey, I have the flu within 48 hours? Then what?
Yeah, at that point, we're going to recommend fluids and antipyretics and muscle, ibuprofen type things for any aches and pains. Some years the flu may cause some vomiting, but not always. The complications that we worry about with the flu are one, dehydration. So if someone's not urinating, they certainly need to be seen at a clinic or even an ER. And some people will get the staph pneumonia, which is a really bad bacterial infection, and that's a complication because now they've got all these secretions and they get a staph pneumonia, and that one's extremely serious. And so if someone has worsening coughing, worsening fever, shortness of breath, breathing fast, those things certainly need to be checked out. It's not common, but when it happens, it's pretty rough.
Oh, yeah. And if you're just joining us, thank you. First of all, feel free to ask questions. This is Dr. Curtis Turner. He's a pediatrician at USA Health. For the moms and caretakers out there, grandparents, how do you know, let's say you do have a 6-month-old or a 15-month-old, they can't talk, they can't tell you what's wrong. How do you know I need to take them, it's the flu, and this is not something that's just going to pass really easily?
Yeah. So again, most kids are going to be eating, drinking, and playing. So if their appetite's dropped, you should worry a little bit. If they're not drinking, worry a lot more. If they're not responding to you, they're not making eye contact or anything like that. You see them breathing fast. And they're not, they just quit playing, you probably should get them checked out.
Okay, so let's take some more questions. Anthony is talking the new strain. Is there something new? I know you mentioned the 2 strains of A and 2 strains of B. Anything else that we need to be aware of?
No, not really. There's some shifts within with those 4 strains that we're talking about, and so there's some deletions of some of the amino acids on that shell that I was talking about earlier with you. So the slight changes, but overall they think it's relatively effective.
Okay. Let's see. What else? Cream, is eating raw garlic good to prevent cold and flu? So that she eats garlic every morning. Is that effective?
Not sure if it's effective, but it probably won't hurt.
All right, so there you go. Let's see what else. We talked about headaches. Let's see. It looks like, keep in mind, can people die from the flu? Or Reagan is saying, is it pneumonia that actually sets in and that's what causes death?
Most of it's pneumonia. Unfortunately, I saw 2 children that died about 4 years ago who were not the old, they weren't really old folks, and they weren't little babies. They were in middle school, and they both caught the flu and then got staph pneumonia, and both of them died from it.
That is horrible. I know that's hard to see in your profession. Is there anything else? We're going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. Is there anything else that you think everyone who is watching needs to know about the flu and the flu this season?
I think the one thing is consider it next year. Consider it the rest of this year. We'll probably continue giving the flu vaccine through February and part of March. And some of the old stories you hear that the flu vaccine causes the flu really don't hold a lot of water. A lot of times people will see one thing happen and then something else happen and think they're related, and they may not be related.
Yeah.
My analogy is that people eat a lot of ice cream in the summer, and there's a lot of drowning in the summer, and so therefore ice cream causes drowning, but they both happen at the same time. The same thing with someone gets a flu vaccine and they get ill, and it may be a different virus, it may be the flu, but it didn't cause it. It takes a couple weeks for it to take effect in your body and make antibodies to protect yourself.
Gotcha. All right, some good information. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you all for watching us, and hope you stay well.